All right, Lorenz, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Okay, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Lorenz Henk. I'm 25, turning 26 soon. I've been in IT for, I don't know, many years. I started coding when I was 14 and been working professionally for about 7 years in IT as a coder, as a software developer. I've been the tech lead of a data-driven low-code platform, which was really interesting. And now I'm working at Shares, which is like a fintech company for the French market. And there I'm focusing mostly on developer experience and code quality, which is like close to my heart.
That's awesome, awesome. And yeah, you sound like those people that when you look at the job description, they're like, we only want you to be 25 years old, but we want 35 years of experience.
Yeah, I started young. I've tried to be one of those guys.
I love it. I love it. So we have a lot to learn from you. So, um, the first question is, why should founders care about code quality, especially in the beginning, early on?
Yeah, so early on, you can make a lot of decisions. So it's like building a house, basically. If you have a strong foundation, the house will stand and you can build on top of it. If you have a weak foundation, the house will collapse at some point, and you really don't want that. So if you start strong with great code quality and then hire more people, people will learn from your code and continue keeping up the high standards of your code. So that is one of the most important things to when you start working on a new project, to keep the code quality high, to implement proper processes, to make sure that things are enforced and stay the way they are regarding code quality, or better, even improve code quality even more.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So for people that are, I guess you could answer in two different ways. Let's see, however you decide to. But for people who are not technical or for people who are technical, what part of the development process should a founder be thinking to automate first to get faster without breaking things so that we can get to that code quality?
So for me, the most important part of like code quality in general is that it's formatted correctly and that it works correctly. Which there is a lot of tools for all kinds of different programming languages that you can use to automatically format your code and enforce specific rules. Those rules can be as simple as stylistic changes or renaming parts of the code, renaming naming variables in a specific way to standardize it, which has the effect that it's much easier to read your code because most of the job isn't writing code and creating new features, but reading and understanding existing code. So improving that process of being able to read code faster because it's standardized and you're used to this the way of how the code is organized already brings a big value, and it helps with onboarding new employees because of course if you're a startup you want to grow, you want to have more people, and the more people you have, the more diverge the code can get because everybody has their different style of writing code. So if you have rules enforced for how the code should be written, everybody has to write the code the same way. So it's easier to read it and understand it later on.
Ooh, you're so right. Because the more people there are, the more, like you said, diversity, or like the way people code is different, right? And it's like I came
Yeah.
from this company and this is how we do things. And I learned in this and this is how we do it. So it's really important for us to pay attention to that. Um, can you talk to us a little bit about technical debt and how does it slow down growth and what is the cost of ignoring it?
Yeah, for sure. So technical debt in general means that you're writing code and you know that it's not optimal in whatever way. It could be not performant, or it could be like entangled code, you could say. Uh, and you know that this piece of code smells, that's what you call it. There is something wrong with it, and you have to look into it, or you should, because it's not the way you would normally write code. But because of time constraints, for example, you just leave it as is. That is called technical debt. And the problem with technical debt is that it is something like debt, like actual money debt. You have to pay it at some point. You cannot leave it there forever, because as soon as you have to read that code, there is technical debt because it slows you down. You have to take more time to understand the piece of code that is not quite the way that it should be. If you have to change a code or a code around it, you also have to first understand, and maybe changing that code is much harder now because there is technical debt involved. So first you have to clean up the technical debt to be able to actually do the changes to the code that you wanted to make. So you're just pushing the problem of rewriting the code forward to the future. You cannot avoid it. Or, well, you can avoid it and incur more technical debt, but at some point you will have to pay it.
Ooh, that's so good. Like when the code, it's a, okay, so why would somebody decide to write that kind of code knowing that, like you said, it smells like it's not what exactly we need right now and it's costing us time? Is it like an efficiency thing? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah. Yeah. So sadly, in the real world, we have deadlines and we have to meet them. If you're building a startup, you want to create an MVP and push it out as fast as possible. So in those cases, it's okay to incur technical debt, but you have to be aware of it and be aware of the effects it will have on you and on your code base and on your further progress of writing code. Because at some point you will have to pay the debt. And if it stacks up, you will have to pay much more than you would have if you started from right from the beginning. So yeah, technical debt is not worth it in the long run for sure. But for MVPs, it does make sense because you want to show your product to customers and they don't care how the code is written. They want to see the product working. So in that case, it's fine to incur technical code. Just be aware of it and make sure that you clean it up at some point.
Okay, that makes sense. So, what tools or workflows would you say can help teams to refactor and optimize code regularly, make sure the code quality is, the way it's supposed to be without slowing down delivery?
Yeah, so there's many different ways to write code. And as I said before, one of the most important things is formatting code. There's many people, many tech people like to discuss what the right way to format code is. In the end, no right way. There is just the right way for your company because you set a specific list of rules and those must be complied to. So it doesn't really matter what those rules are. You just have to make sure that everybody follows those rules. Same with linting. Linting is basically reading, there's a program scanning and analyzing your code and trying to figure out patterns that may cause issues or that could be rewritten. Some linters also allow you to automatically rewrite code. So you don't even have to do anything. You just run that program and it rewrites code for you, which is amazing. And formatting and linting can also be done in CI, which means whenever you change something in code and you push it to your server, the code is automatically analyzed and rewritten and reformatted, and you don't have to do anything. That's one of the best things you can have set up, because then whenever you change your code, it's automatically made sure that the code is fine.
Wow, I'm learning
So,
so much.
and specific tools, for example, for in the JavaScript and TypeScript world, mostly you have Prettier for formatting, ESLint for linting, Oxy also for linting, which is like a faster linter even. And the cool thing is you can write custom lint rules, which means that you have to a bit harder, it's a bit more complex, but it means you can analyze the code and have specific patterns that you know that are causing issues a lot. And that is the thing. When you push out a product and people see it and you have a bug, you want to fix that bug. But you just don't want to fix the bug. You also want to make sure that this kind of bug or that class of bugs never happens again. And linters can help you there exactly with that. They make sure that the code you're writing uh, follows specific rules, and you can make sure that one of those rules says, don't introduce that bug again.
That's good to know. Wow. Okay. And this is why engineers always feel like like they say, like pilots, like the god, like you're going to make rules to say, don't you touch me again, don't come back here. I love that. Um, so
Yeah, for sure.
what would you say is the difference between clean code and fast code? And how should founders think about both types of code?
All right, yeah. Clean code, to me, clean code is code that can be easily read, as I said before, and written and changed. So you're always aware of how to make changes in that kind of code. Fast code is about optimizing the code to be as fast at runtime as possible, which is in our current world not so important anymore, because our devices that run the code are like have huge like can handle huge amounts of data and are very, very fast compared to 50 years ago, for example. So it's more important to be able to write code faster than to have fast executing code, in my opinion, in most of the applications that people build. Of course, there's applications that rely on being executed very quickly, and in those cases, it's fine to write less clean code, which is more optimized for runtime execution time, and that yeah, that is a business requirement in the end. But most of the time, the real cost of having a product isn't the runtime cost, but it's the cost of changing the code and adapting, adding new features. Because I mean, developers are expensive in the end, so you want to make sure that they can work in the fastest way possible and make sure that they can work without being blocked in any way by technical debt, for example.
That makes a lot of sense. When I was thinking about clean code and fast code, I was just thinking about code that's faster to write, but I never thought about code that's faster to execute. So I can see how that could be so you need to be precise about how you use different codes, because that makes a lot of sense, because there'll be some parts of the product that might need you to execute faster and some parts of the product that don't necessarily need that. So that makes a lot of sense. So I know a lot of people are talking about AI and using AI to optimize things and write and all of that stuff. What are your thoughts about that? I know you're like a very what is the word? You're a classical coder. So so what are your thoughts about using AI?
Yeah, so when I was 14 and started learning how to code, there was no AI, no ChatGPT or other LLMs helping me learn coding and understanding it. I had to do it everything like on my own, or of course with my teachers and working through homework in the end. Um, so I've noticed that many people at university now are using AI to help them understand code, and it really depends on how you use AI, because you can use AI to generate code. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But if you don't know whether it works or not, and just try it out and just run the code and see if it works or not, that's not the point of learning how to code. So it's important to know how to use AI for learning. In practice, in actual software developer jobs, many people are using AI now. And for many people, it works well. I have used it for a couple of private projects with IntelliJ, and they have their own kind of AI, which does line by line auto completion. It works surprisingly well, I have to say. I didn't expect it. But for bigger projects or bigger chunks of code, I haven't found that it's useful yet. I'm really keen to see what is coming in the upcoming years. And there's many businesses focusing especially on developer experience and writing AI that analyzes your code, searches for security vulnerabilities. All of that is very interesting. I'm still in the team static code analysis and linting and writing your from scratch. But of course, if you can use AI and it works well for you, why not?
I really appreciate your perspective, because it's kind of like I've heard people say a graphic designer, like a trained great graphic designer using AI will produce something different from someone who just decides to use AI to create like a design. Like there is something about understanding how it works, and then you can speak to the AI or put the prompts in such a way that it produces something that is more beautiful or cleaner or faster, depending on what you're trying to execute. So you really need to understand what's behind the machine, and then you can get the best out of AI if you choose to use AI. So I really appreciate you talking about that. So someone listening to this or watching this might be like, "Ooh, there's so much to think about. There's so many tools to try." What would you say is one thing that a startup team can do this week to start writing smarter code?
So for sure, if you haven't set up anything regarding formatting or linting, do that first. Do it as soon as possible, because the longer you wait, the harder it is to introduce it to your existing code base, to put strict rules onto your code base. But when you start with that, it's easy, and there is like guides that force you to walk in a specific path. So when you scale up and have more employees, it's very important to enforce these like this code quality basically, and this code guidelines, to make sure that there is no people going out of bounds basically with the code quality. So in my opinion, that is the most important part. Try to optimize and automate everything that can be automated, but don't focus too much on just automation, because in the end you also have to deliver features. Make sure to automate the things that are easily automizable and can be done automatically, like with ease, but don't try to automate everything. It's not worth it. It's the 80-20 rule. Try to cover 80% with 20% of effort, and the other 20%, just leave them there for later, when you have enough money to focus on it.
Oh my goodness, I love that. Yeah, like focus on the priorities and then leave the rest. You'll come back to it later. Ooh, I can keep talking with you about this because I can tell you're passionate about it, and I know there's a lot that we can learn about it. But the time, it just keeps going. So for people who have more questions and they want to reach out to you, what would be the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, so the best way, I guess, would be LinkedIn. Just write me on LinkedIn, Lorenz Henk, working at Shares. You'll find me.
Okay, well, thank you so
Looking
much,
like
Lorenz. And you have the same face, right?
yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much. It's been such a great pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you very much for having me. Thanks.